Good afternoon and welcome everybody. I'm trying to take a look at this whole new season 3 thing that's happening with Diablo 4 and I think we might have a winner for what we're going to start with and what we're going to try to do. And this season we're going to start off with a sorcerer, not ball lightning, because it looks like ball lightning is taking one hell of a hit from having its attack rate gone from 200% down to 25%. Ball lightning might still be viable. It might still be something that we try later on in the season. But to start off at the beginning here, I am very much thinking that the one we toyed around with this season, which was our Fireball Sorcerer, can be mixed in with Meteor. Because the Starfall Coronet looks like it may bring out one hell of a Meteor Sorcerer or a Fire Sorc in general. And I think we may have Sorcerers up there as one of the most powerful builds. So in this video, we're going to take a little bit of time. We're going to take a little look through a couple of things, and we're going to try and see what we can build and what we would theory craft in with this sorcerer. This may not be a whole build. It will just depend on how we're going along and what we can find out. But based on this new unique, which is the Starfall Coronet, Meteor now has 2 charges and an 11 to 6 second charge cooldown instead of mana, and can drop additional meteors. And the Meteor's enchantment effect and enchantment meteor can drop an additional meteor. I think this could be really, really good. So let's start by just having a look at what's going to happen with the Sorcerer in Season 3. We just saw the Starfall Coronet. The aspect of Shredding Blades is going to help with the Ice Blades, which may be used as an enchantment later on, but not something that we're going to look at. The Ball Lightning skill has changed to have its attack rate increased down to 25%, which I think is a major nerf and may actually cause the Ball Lightning build not to be a usable thing for endgame, but it might be something that's still good mid-game. It might still be something that's good for farming. We'll have to see what happens there. The Blizzard condition can be cast over 50 mana, has been removed. Critical strikes now apply vulnerable for 3 seconds when with Lightning Spear. So Lightning Spear would definitely be something very interesting to look at when it comes to our enchantments, because we will be using Tal Rashes again. And we'll be using it because of what the companions can do. It's a very interesting thing to see. You'll see when we get to that section of it. And there's a few changes to the Paragon board. So there is an issue where critical strike chance bonuses weren't applying, which means we're going to get more critical strike chance bonuses. And those bonuses increasing from 10 to 12% on the Searing Heat board. On the Elemental Summoner board, which there could potentially be something there with conjurations, because we may be using the Lightning Spear for conjurations. There'll be bonuses. They're increasing from 3 to 5 for the total amount of bonus damage when it comes to Fire, Lightning, Cold, and we're going to try and build in Fire, Lightning, Cold on our Fire Sorc here. The Burning Instinct board is getting a bit of a buff because the intelligence required to gain the bonus burning damage reduction is going from 75 to 25. That's going to drop down, and it's going to be a big buff to our burning damage reduction. And then we come down to the last couple of things here, which is Ice Heart Brayus is not going to be big for us. The Staff of Lamesen for charge bolts, which we're not going to use. But the offensive aspect of Shattered Stars, yeah, I think we may potentially use that. Or it will be something that we'll be using, because meteor damage has been changed to be 20 to 30% of the casted meteor's damage. So a lot of funky things looking that will be going on here. We have gone into Mobilytics, and we have started with our sorcerer build and what we're going to be building here to start with. None of the construct items are in here as yet, so we're not going to know exactly what we can put in, but I can tell you that we were looking at the constructs here for the tuning stones and for the governing stones, and well, looking at a couple of these, there's some very, very interesting stuff. So we can get a barrier, we can launch balls of lightning, we can perform an attack to all the enemies in front, we can whirl its legs around, dealing more damage. We can channel Rays of Fire onto people, which we probably won't need with Meteor. We can deploy Small Construct that lands on targets and explodes. There's a couple of little decent things in here. So if we look at a couple of them, I think that the main ones we've kind of figured out what we want to do. So the Send Shell construct activates an anti-material field around itself, shooting down enemy projectiles. cannot shoot down boss or player projectiles, so not going to be good in PvP or against boss fights. Bushwhack allows you to quickly ambush, dealing damage to each target. May strike the same target multiple times. That's an interesting one. Firefly explodes 3 times. Focus fire channels some fire onto the actual enemies. Gyrate, it spins its legs around and does damage. Impale, it just does a big line of attack in front of it, so you just imagine like a big spear going out and attacking everything. Probably not the best thing that we're going to be looking at. Lightning Bolt launches a bolt of lightning at the target, dealing damage, and arcs to other targets, dealing a portion of the original damage. Now that would be interesting as well, because that's some lightning damage for Tail Rashes. Then we've got Protect, which puts a protective barrier on the player for a portion of their maximum life. That sounds like it could be good for endgame and for running things like AOZ or the Vault. Channels a Reconstruction Beam, healing the player. That looks like it might be something interesting for AOZ again, or the Vault. Pummel enemies in front, just dealing damage. Electrically charge an enemy, causing it to deal damage to themselves. And then there's one more that they haven't told us about here. But so far, it's looking like Lightning Bolt will be a very good governing stone while you're leveling and running through and trying to do speed runs of endgame content to try and, say, level up your glyphs or things like that. And Focus Fire looks like another one because it will actually channel out fire onto targets, dealing damage to each over time. So that's burning damage, damage over time, which means we won't need to use, or we may not need to use, Firebolt in our enchantment. That opens up a whole array of possibilities to be able to use other enchantments, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. So we're looking probably fire and lightning in here. And then we come down to the tuning stone. So there's 27 of them. You can equip 3 for each governing stone, so you can equip 6 all up. Now, I know the few that I'm thinking about straight away, which would be burning support, which is going to take burning damage, so it burns damage and hits enemies for burning damage over time. I think that's going to be a great one. So that's 1 for Tail Rashes. Dusk support, which will then allow a portion of the support skill to deal shadow damage. So that's going to be really good because that's shadow damage for Tail Rashes, which is 2 now. We can look at electrocution support, which is going to do lightning damage. That's 3. And it also stuns enemies, which is really, really good. So that's 3 for Tail Rashes that we're using now. Frigid support, cold damage. Now we can do cold damage with Tail Rashes, which is now 4 for Tail Rashes. So you can see where this is going. And then down the bottom here, we can see the poison support. Now the poison support goes to 5. Now that's 5 times that we can proc into Tail Rashes. And if you remember, Tail Rashes was a maximum of 15. I think I had one on my Sorcerer, which was a 12 to 14, but 15. So 15 times 5, we're looking at, sorry, 15 procced 5 times. We're looking at 75x multiplicative damage for Tail Rashes. Now, we can also take one of these off because we're getting burning support and stuff from other things that we're using, and we're using Meteor, which is going to do burning support, which will allow the burn. So we can actually take burning support off, meaning we're only using 4 of these particular tuning stones, which then takes us into what we could do, where we could use something like Devastation, so critical strike damage bonuses. We can use duration support, which makes things last longer. We could use Fortify support, so we gain Fortify, which makes us a bit stronger, which I think is one that we will definitely take, so I'm going to call that 5. We can do multi-shot, launching additional projectiles, which is going to be great for Meteor. We can do registered damage. We can do resource. I think resource will probably be the other one, which will be that the player gains primary resource when the supporting skill first damages and does damage. So I think resource support will be the next best one to use on top of that. So that would be our 6 that we would use there, which makes it really, really interesting. And if we go over and look at our ring, let's grab Tail Rashes because that's what we want to use. Tail Rashes goes 10 to 15%. So even if it was at the lowest at 10%, you're getting a 50 times multiplicative increase in damage for 4 seconds. And if that's constantly going on and your little construct supporting you is making a lot of things happen, that's going to be really, really good. Tail Rashes is also great because it does resistance to all elements against both of the both of the standing aspects that sit on it up the top. Great lucky hit chance, which we're going to need for the meteors. Resource generation is always good for anything that we do, and cooldown reduction, or sorry, meteors is changing to cooldown reduction, so that's going to be good for it. Resource gen for everything else that we're going to use. But I'm thinking of going down the route of fireball and doing a fireball meteor build and building around very close to what we were building in a lot of the other stuff. Now, with regards to any other rings, there's not really any other uniques that are going to be interesting for this unless we go for something like an X-Fals, which again gives us cooldown reduction, lucky hit chance, which is great, and damage over time, which is great. But then it erupts. So the burning damage, the poison damage, all of that has a chance to erupt. That could be a very, very interesting way to go when it comes down to building out this particular sorcerer that we're looking to build. So look, let's throw it in there for now. It's just an interesting thing that we're going to look at. Now, with the weapon, since we're going to be doing Fireball, we're going to look at the Staff of Endless Rage, which is every third cast launches 2 additional fireballs. So the Staff of Endless Rage is going to be in there. With that staff, we don't have an offhand because the staff is a two-handed staff, so we're not going to have an offhand there. We're going to try and stick away from using all uniques. So I mean, Temerity could be good for pushing. Tibolt's Will is great for resource generation, but we're going to try and push away from that because we don't want to be using that constantly and have every single thing in here being a unique. With the helmet, if we go to the helmet, we're going to be using Staff or Coronet, so that takes out all the other helmets. Chest, we're not going to need raiment, so we're going to be using something with disobedience in the chest, although I think using the amulet for disobedience again is going to be great because it gives you a lot of armor, especially when you're attacking constantly. So when it comes to the amulet, I think we're going to be using disobedience in our amulet for this one as well. Coming into this, I mean, there's a lot of fire damage over time. There's a lot of stats over time. There's a lot of stuff like that. Armor, I think, is going to be one that we would definitely have to get. And then you all know that I love my movement speed, so I'm going straight for movement speed. There's just nothing else that I can do in regards to that. Now, with regards to what we're going to use on top of that, Hoarfrost, I think, could be great, especially since we can now try to use something like Frostbolt as an enchantment, which will chill enemies, and that means we can do more damage. I think that that's going to be great. Inner Flames is another one which would be really, really good if we can use Inner Flames. Endless Pyre is another one which is really good. Devouring Blaze is another one which is really good, especially since we're doing an actual fire build. Devouring Blaze will be able to do all the time, and then we can use stuff which will be able to stun and immobilize enemies. And immobilizing those enemies means Devouring Blaze will hit even harder. It'll hit for double. So Devouring Blaze is going to go in there. Now, the other things we can use, I mean, damage reduction is nice. Lucky hit chance is going to be a big thing because if we have more lucky hit, we're going to be able to proc all the things like Tail Rashes, like the extra meteors, like all of that sort of stuff. I really don't think I need to look at anything else. I think lucky hit while you have a barrier is going to be the one that we need to put in there. And that sort of builds up a little bit of what we're looking to do here. When we go to what we're going to be using, obviously we are going to need to have one of these, but I don't know if we're going to use it on the bar. We want to use Fireball, so that's going to be the crux of the build. We want to use Meteor, that's going to be the crux of the build. We are definitely going to be using Teleport to be able to move around, and we are definitely going to be using either Flame Shield or Ice Armor, or potentially both. And at the moment, if I throw both in there and we start having a look at what else we can use, we're not going to use Incinerate. We may potentially throw Hydra on there. My biggest thought on all of this was Lightning Spear. Now, very low lucky hit chance, but Lightning Spear being able to make things vulnerable is going to be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And then we can use some of the conjuration stuff in the conjuration board because we're going to have conjurations out there through Lightning Spear. There is also Inferno. So using Inferno means that we can just then smash everything on the field. That could be really, really good. Firewall, I don't think we're going to need to use, although I think as an enchantment could be really, really good. So that would be one of our enchantments. And then since we don't have anything that's doing frost damage other than the construct, I mean, we could always throw in something like Frozen Orb for extra vulnerable stuff and for chilling, which will be great for Hoarfrost. The other thing with Inferno is that once the Serpent is out there, the extension of Inferno is that you can use any fire skills using 0 mana. So you can go absolutely bananas throwing fireballs out at everything. So I think that's where we need to go. I really do. I'm going to stick with that just for the beginning of the build. We'll see about tossing things up and changing things around later. Enchantment-wise, we may not actually need Firebolt anymore because the Meteors are going to cause burning. The Construct's going to cause burning. We're going to have burning damage out there. So the burning damage will be out there. I don't think we need to use Firebolt for burning damage anymore. We are going to have to still put points into something up here. So, I mean, it is what it is. We could use Frostbolt to chill enemies, which means we wouldn't need to use Frozen Orb. Frostbolt could do that, which is very, very interesting. But taking a look at the different sorts of enchantments and the different things that they do, Frozen Orb would have been my first choice. Chain Lightning is also a good one because then we can actually start to look at using the, every time Chain Lightning bounces, you get mana back and you get resource back, so you can build up your resource on it. We may not need that either because of the construct. That could be a really, really positive thing. So what I'm thinking personally is if we want to stick with the fire, and let's just stick with fire for now because that's what we want to try and do is build around this big fire thing, is I think we go to Meteor, and have all the extra meteors falling because that's exactly what we're trying to do when this happens. And the other thing we want to try and do is firewall. So firewalls spawn because of burning damage, which then spawns meteors, which spawn more firewalls, which spawn meteors. I think it could be a really, really interesting thing. And I'd like to thank Rob on this because I was watching one of his videos where he threw one meteor down and firewalls started coming up everywhere and more meteors started coming up everywhere and it just became this whole big thing of fireballs and meteors and fireballs and meteors. Really, really cool. So that's one of the things that I was looking at doing. I'm not going to go down the chest, gloves, pants, and boots and everything else just yet. I'm going to go into the skill tree because we're going to have to put 2 points into the beginning here. We're then going to build out our fireball and go all the way up to 5 points. I'm just going to zoom this in so that we can see this a bit easier. We are going to enhance it, obviously, and then we're going to look at what happens here. So we can do the 10% of burning damage if applied as additional damage, or my personal favorite would be Fireball's explosions critical strike damage is increased by 20%, increasing to 30% when hitting more enemies. I think that's the way that we need to go. We don't need to put anything into devastation or anything else right now. We do always want to put one in here just to be able to reset one of these if we have to. Teleport's going to go down straight through to its shimmering like it always does. I'm going to take Flame Shield, and I'm going to take it with the mana cost reduction because Fireball is a mana heavy type of build. We are going to take the 3 points into Mana Shield, the 3 points into Protection, because you just need to use these on a Sorcerer to make sure you don't die, basically. We are going to put 1 point into Inner Flames for now and 3 into Devouring Blaze. You can see here where it says it deals 21% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. If they're immobilized, this bonus is increased to 30%. So that's really, really good. Your Pyromancy skills deal 3% increased damage while you are healthy. I mean, we could probably throw our other points in there because we are using Pyromancy skills. So we do want Meteor because we are going to be using Meteor. We're going to enhance it, and then we are going to go into Immobilize. I mean, they don't really need to fall faster if a lot of them are falling, so I think we're going to Immobilize. And because we are using Meteor as our big skill as part of this, we're going to just max that all the way out as well. We don't need to take anything else here for now. We did take Inferno, so we're going to take Inferno all the way out, which shows that your Pyromancy skills cost no mana. We're then going to go here where killing a burning enemy increases your mana generation. Pump that all the way to its max because I think that's great. You deal increased burning damage is not a big thing that we need to do, but I think the healing here for maximum life is great. And then we're going to come straight down here and we're either going to look at Combustion or Essus. Essus is my favorite one out of this. So Combustion, your burning effects deal 20% increased damage and the additional 2x per unique source of burning that you have applied. So that's burning damage over time. I prefer to use Essus Ferocity, where your fire critical strike damage is increased by a huge amount against enemies above 50% life, and your critical strike chance is increased by 5% against enemies who are lower life. So you will crit the healthy enemies for a lot more crit, and then you'll have more chances to crit with not as strong a crit for those enemies below 50% life, which I think is great. So we're going to take that there. You can see now we've got 11 skills left. Because of the chill, I'm going to go straight into Hoarfrost and throw it in there because I think that is worth every penny. We're not going to take Soulfire because it's not really going to matter too much. We're then going to come up here and throw 3 points straight into Precision Magic because you just throw 3 points into Precision Magic for that lucky hit. And then we have 4 points left, so we can actually go into Glass Cannon, which I'm not going to do just yet because I think that, you know, for end game, you'd want to take all the points out. For leveling, you want to throw as many points into this as you can get. So if you can throw the 3 in there for leveling, you throw 1, 2, 3, you get 18% increased damage, take a little bit more damage on yourself. But for the start, it's not going to matter so much. It's not going to be a huge, huge problem. End game, I think you probably want to come up to this way, and you're going to want to just do Devastation and do that your core and mastery skills do more damage above X amount mana. As a leveling build, that's really hard because your mana is not going to be regenerating as quick. So I think as a leveling build, and to start with, you would go into Glass Cannon and make sure you take that all the way through until you start to control your mana, until you start to get into the higher end game content where that 9% damage that you take extra is just going to be too much. Things like AOZ this season were part of that, and I think that you would then just take those points and throw them into Devastation and throw them into Elemental Dominance. So that's where I can see the points going in the actual build itself. The Paragon board, this is going to be a whole big new ball game, and this could probably take the video out to well over 40, 45, 50 minutes, maybe even longer than that. This is going to just be a quick run through just to sort of get an idea of where we would go. So we'd go up the normal route here, we'd come around the middle, we'll just go up here, we're going to come across, we're going to come down because we do want this resistance to all elements. We're going to take that resistance too. We want to try to take as much resistance as we can. We're going to jump in here and we're going to take a look at all the different glyphs that we can try and use. I mean, most of these glyphs, Tears of Blood will be gone. It's like Adept is going to give you increased mastery skill damage, and your Meteor is part of your mastery skill, so that's an interesting one to put in somewhere. And mastery skills have a 20% increased area. So I'm wondering if maybe that would work. Like if that 20% has started to come back, you can see here that this particular area, this is mastery skills. All of these are part of your mastery skills, and Meteor is one of those. So there's a potential that something like Adept will be pretty good in there. We're not looking to do anything with Charge because we're not doing Crackling Energy. We're not doing anything with Conjurer right now. Control for Crowd Control is great. Destruction for Critical Strike is great. Electrocute we're not going to be using. Elementalist not right now. Enchanter not right now. Exploit potentially for vulnerable targets. Flame Feeder yes, but in another board. Frostbite no. More damage while healthy yes, but the 30% increased potion healing is just a waste in my eyes. Invocation for Conjurations dealing more critical strike damage. We're not doing that many of them, so we don't need it. Pyromaniac, yes, but potentially in another board. Because what it does is it does bonuses to fire damage and damage reduction modifiers. So this is more likely to go in the Burning Instinct board than in any of these other boards. My favorite to use at the beginning is this one, Reinforce. So you gain something to all your rare nodes and you gain damage reduction while you have a barrier. I'm not going to go through it with the grants because I don't know what the grants start at, but it's 125% at the beginning. So that's my favorite one to use. But if we go through just a couple of the other ones, we're not doing Stalagmite. We're not really doing anything to do with, well, Tactician does the same thing and it's just a little bit of increased damage. Territorial is to close targets, and if you're doing a fireball build, it's not going to be close targets. Torch and Unleash, not really. Warding, not really. Winter for a cold build. So this is why I start with Reinforced. Now, Reinforced gives you bonus to all rare nodes. You can see the rare nodes here. Rare nodes are going to give us resistances, which is, sorry, there's magic nodes. Rare nodes. Rare node here. Rare node is going to give us resistances to all elements, and this rare node is going to give us non-physical damage. So what we want to do is definitely come across here, and we want to take the non-physical damage there. And then we want to come across here and we want to take everything we can in this section because we want all the resistance to all elements. The willpower would be nice, but I don't, actually, well, the willpower is nice because the requirements are willpower. So we throw this willpower in and you can see we're at 24 out of 25. And we're just throwing that extra little willpower there and we start just running ourselves up into the next board. Being a fire build, Searing Heat is one thing where pyromancy skills have more critical strike chance and deal more damage based on your damage with fire bonus, which is really, really good. We do want that, but we're probably going to want that later. I'm going to go the Burning Instinct board second because your burning damage is increased by X amount. But not only that, the Burning Instinct board, from what you'll be able to tell when we start to come up here, has things like lucky hit chance to, and attack speed here, which is great. Has things like damage to burning enemies, which we are going to be doing. Has things like damage reduction from burning enemies. But the most important thing here, if we just even went in straight to the glyph and out, is that this particular rare node and this particular rare node and things around it are damage reduction from enemies that are burning and damage to enemies that are burning. So we come straight around. We want to go straight towards the glyph. We're going to come up here. We're going to come in this way. And this is where I was saying that we would go and we would look at using, if I can find it, not Flame Feeder. Well, Flame Feeder is nice, but not Flame Feeder. Pyromaniac. So Pyromaniac is going to Paragon, any Paragon nodes within range. Fire damage and damage reduction is going to go up. And your Pyromancy skills that you cast every second you channel Incinerate, increase your fire damage by 2x for 6 seconds up to 10. So you just get a multiplier on damage whether you're channeling Incinerate or using a Pyromancy skill. So we throw Pyromancy in there. It's a willpower glyph. There's not a huge amount of willpower here, so we're just going to try and jump in nicely and quickly around here. We're going to take all of this because we want to. We're going to come out here and grab that willpower. We're going to come here and grab that willpower. We are also going to go down here because we get a lot of damage reduction from burning enemies. We're going to take this magic node for damage reduction as well. And this now does obviously give us now the 75% bonuses to fire damage and damage reduction. So this is a fire damage reduction from burning enemies, and this is a damage more damage to burning enemies, which is pretty good. The next part we want to go to is probably up here and then make our way up, but I'm not going to do that just yet. What we're going to do is just take a look at, you know what, we're going to have no choice. So let's just take a run up. Let's just quickly take a run up. Let's just not get sidetracked. We're going to want the burning legendary node up here. I'm just going to fill these gaps. There we go. And burning damage is increased. So now we'll do a heap of burning damage. We want fire resistance. We don't really need fire resistances. We want damage reduction. Yes. We want damage reduction. Yes. We want damage to burning. Yes. We want damaging to elites. Yes. And then we're just going to take a little run up here. And we're just going to take that rare node, which gives us damage reduction from elites and armor. Armor, damage reduction from elites. So now we've got a bit of damage reduction, we've got a bit of armor, we've got a bit of other stuff. And we're going to just sneak out into over here. Searing Heat is another good board. So we're going to just flick over here. You can see Searing Heat has a lot of intelligence. So if we were to come in here and have a look at the things that need intelligence, Adept is pretty good for mastery skills. And that needs intelligence. So Adept is probably going to be a good one to use in here. There's a lot of others that we can use. Remember, this is just theory crafting to see what it would be. So if we threw Adept in there, Adept is going to be a really good one to use. We're going to just run straight up the middle here, come across. We've got Adept. We're going to go straight out to the side here, grab these intelligence nodes, grab these intelligence nodes, come up here to the fire damage node. I mean, we won't take those just yet. We'll come straight down here and take all of this intelligence here, and we're just going to see what we have. We don't need that. Fire damage and critical strike damage is huge, so we're going to just quickly sneak down here because it's a little sneaky one just to come across, and we get fire damage and critical strike damage. Over here we get damage reduction, which we don't need just yet. Over here we've got the legendary node where pyromancy skills have increased critical strike chance and deal direct damage equal to 10% of your damage over time bonus. So yes, we do want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just sneak around and we're going to get that legendary node right there. Bottom one here is fire damage over time, not so important, not so important, and not so important. So we have a number of different ways we can get out of this board now. We can go down this way and come out the bottom. We can go out the top, which is going to be the cheapest way of going out. So I think we will just sneak straight out of the top. And then we're going to look at what else we can do. We're not using frost skills. This has got some great intelligence. This has got great intelligence. So does this. So does this. But a couple of these other ones use willpower. And we're just going to have a look at what these boards look like. So we can get to this really quickly, which will give us more resistance to all elements and a little bit of conjuration skill damage, which is not the worst thing. Not the worst thing. So we just quickly just duck up here, grab that. And what we're looking for now is something that's going to give rare glyphs and other glyphs percentage increases. So Paragon nodes to lightning. This is the one I want. This looks pretty good. No, maybe not. We're going to see what else we can find when it comes to it. We want something that's going to give rare nodes or magic nodes extra percentages. Tactician seems pretty good because you'll deal extra damage for using a defensive skill, and we do have defensive skills that are in there. Exploit would be pretty good. Uses dexterity. I mean, control for crowd control is really good. Charged, no. So, I mean, taking a quick look at that and going through all of these different ones, it looks like Tactician is going to be a decent one to put in here. So, here we only need to get 25 dexterity, and Tactician will actually start to make sure that all the rare nodes go up. So we get conjuration skill damage and intelligence here. The intelligence is great because that's what we want, but also this resistance to all elements. So we have some resistances. So we throw in that there. We're going to take the resistances here and take that and take this resistance. We're then just going to pop our way out here and grab these two. We're at 24, and then we're going to come up here and just grab the one in the corner there, which then gives us extra resistances, a little bit of conjuration, which we're not too worried about, but the extra resistances we definitely are. Now, when we're looking at these boards, there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can get outside of boards and that we can go down different ways. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the cheapest way that we can do it, which looks like it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're out. So we can go up or down. And I think what we're going to do is just sneak up this way and go into our next board. So we've got a high dexterity board here with static surge, and a high dexterity board here with ceaseless conduit. So we're going to take the high dexterity board. There's a reason for this, because control for crowd control targets is a dexterity board. Exploit for vulnerable targets is also a dexterity board. And then if we go into anything like territorial, it's dexterity. And if we try and find the one that had our critical strike damage, it is destruction, is also dexterity. So critical strike is where we're going to start with. We're going to start with critical strike in there. So we are going to just quickly sneak up this way, sneak straight across over here. Sneak across this way. I've missed one down the end there. Sneak there. Sneak up here and just take these here with the extra intelligence. And what can we get here? Lightning resistance. I don't think we're going to need that right now, so we're not going to take it. The dexterity we will take, so we've got a lot of dexterity there. We have, let's have a look what we have. We have approximately 22 points left, so we might be able to sneak in another board. Let's just quickly sneak down here and out and look at what we've got, because Dex, again, was really, really important, wasn't it? So Static Surge will be the one that we want to probably look at getting. And then we want to just take a look at what's the easiest way to get around there. It is going to be by flipping this board. That's the way we're going to get down there. We're going to have to flip this board. So let's flip it round. And then if we sneak in over here and come up, Paragon nodes gain bonus to their damage and damage reduction modifiers, which we don't need. Control will give us crowd control targets, which we will do, but I think exploit might be the one that's got 10x multiplicative damage. Charge then control. Control, we do stun enemies, so we can get 20x out of control if we throw control in there. Flame Feed is a good one. Imbibe will give us a heap of extra attack. Territorial will give us damage reduction and close target. But we're not really doing close targets, are we? So we might just stick away from the close target part. that should answer our question. I think we just throw in exploit for the safety. We have 4 now, so 1, 2, 3. Have we kicked it off? We have not. We're going to need 1 point here to be able to get that dexterity to work. So we're just going to just quickly sneak out a burning damage 1 here and sneak that in there because we are losing 5% additive damage to gain 10% multiplicative damage. So that's the board at the very beginning. So we've got 2, 4, we've got 6 boards here. I think we could probably get away with 5, but we've got 6 boards here and we're going to use the 6 just to start with. We haven't really snuck in anywhere here. We can get another dexterity there if we want a little bit. We don't need it. No, we shouldn't be getting the dexterity there, never mind. That's where we're going to look at for the boards. That's all the reasoning behind it. So, I mean, this is a very, very broad start. There's a lot of other boards that you can sort of throw in there if you want to try and see if things are closer and easier to reach and all those sorts of things. This is really just to just craft up and have a look at what might potentially work. I don't know that it will or won't. I don't know how it's going to work yet. But that gives you an idea of the Paragon board and the skill tree. And I think with everything that we're going to be using, this could work out to be one hell of a build. Chest armor, we'd be looking at something to do with fire. You get a free firewall, that's a potential there. Anything to do with burning damage, nothing. We just have to go through and just have a look. Binding Embers could be interesting where Flame Shield lets you move unhindered through enemies. And as you move through them with Flame Shield, you immobilize them. So Binding Embers, I mean, I don't know if you can use that on... You can use it on boots. I mean, the interesting one for boots. Boots, you obviously want movement speed. That's a big one. Ranks to Flame Shield would be an interesting one. Ranks to Teleport is always good so that you can run through really quickly. Mana cost reduction is an important one. You really do want that mana cost reduction. I don't know what our resistances are going to look like at the moment, so we may potentially have to take resistances in here, but if we don't have to take resistances in here, I think that my next ones will be something like All Stats and Flame Shield, so we can get Flame Shield back online a lot quicker, and then All Stats just for the statistics. That would be really, really good. Gloves, I always like to go with attack speed so we can attack a little bit faster. With ranks, we're going to go ranks to Fireball. That's what we do with the ranks component of these. And then we look at things like Lucky Hit, which we will need Lucky Hit. I also like to do, and I like to thank Sladra for this one, because he actually taught me to use this when I was watching his videos. So I love using this and putting this into builds where Lucky Hit to restore primary resource. So if you're having any mana issues, restore primary resource is a great thing to throw in there. I think that's really, really good, which gets our gloves going. For our weapons, you are either going to go for Emerald, which you can see there gives you 12% critical strike damage against vulnerable. We have a lot of ways to make enemies vulnerable. I like to go the opposite way to critical strike damage enemies who are crowd controlled. So I like to use Sapphire only because it's the same sort of thing, and we do a lot of crowd control with this particular build, which is great. When it comes to armor, you want to be doing Ruby for your maximum life, because a lot of your barriers and things work off your maximum life. So if we do swap things out, or like we've got ice armor in here, it works off your base life. So rubies are great in your armor. And in your jewelry, for now, we're going to be going diamond because we don't know what the resistance is going to be like. If you have the resistances up high enough and they're sort of 68, 69, 70% and everything's great, then you would go skull for the extra armor. But for now, what we're going to do is just throw that in there. So this is a very, very interesting thing. I don't know what we're going to do here with regards to the aspect on our gloves. There's just so many of them. And there's a lot of different things that we could go down. There's aspect of the elements, which swaps between cold, poison, shadow, fire, lightning, physical, and you do more damage. I think that could be a really good one. You deal more damage to burning enemies who are below 50% total life. That's a really good one. Aspect of fortune, so we have more lucky hit. That's always a bonus. That could actually be a really good one on gloves. We do need to build into lucky hit. Chest armor, so we've used disobedience here on the amulet, so we don't need to go back into disobedience. When it comes to the chest armor, I don't know what we could use for the chest armor. Let's take a quick look through. Active barriers, unwavering, eluding, encased, Juggernaut, Frost Blitz, Mage Lovers. Raiment would be interesting. we may actually have to go down the route of Soul Brand for Lucky Hit. You do get damage reduction and maximum life and barrier gen, and then when you heal, you get a barrier. So that could, that could be interesting. Casting Ice Armor makes you unstoppable. That would be a great thing to have if we want to throw unstoppable into our build, because there is a lot of things that we could do which makes it good. We could go down the Mage Lords where V Mastery, but we don't use V as Mastery, so I mean, not the best thing. You take less damage from crowd control enemies, could be really good. So that's probably going to be one of the best ones. Basic skills grant damage reduction. We're not going to be using our basic skill very much. When there are 5 close enemies, you can stun them. That's interesting because stunning is actually another version of crowd control. Flame Shield lets you move unhindered. That's already on our boots. Searing Wards, we get a free firewall, but that's not on our actual board, I don't think. Shared Misery is another interesting one, where you can just immobilize a whole heap of enemies really, really quick. So Shared Misery is actually quite interesting. Throw on there. And the pants, deflecting barriers, usually okay, so you can deflect that. Protectors, usually okay, so you get a barrier. There's a lot of different things here that we can use. We're not going to use Ice Heart Brayus because we're not freezing anyone. Protecting with the bubbles, pretty good. Ice Armor making us unstoppable just gives us another unstoppable. Temerity would be a very interesting one, because we will be healing with a couple of different ways that we have on our board, on our skill tree, and all those sorts of things. Temerity could be really, really interesting. With a lucky hit chance to heal, potion drop rates are higher, maximum life is higher. Everything that heals you more. So on our skill board, this is the interesting part here. So if we go quickly to our skill tree, just so I can show you, just so I can bring it up. If we read this, for every second you heal for 0.9 of your maximum life for every nearby burning enemy, more from bosses. That's where Temerity can come into play to be a really, really interesting end of game or end game type of thing. But until we do that, I'm not too sure what else we could use. We heal for every close enemy. Yeah, you know what? I think we're just gonna throw Temerity in there for now, and then we'll work around that later. So that's the concept. That's the idea. I'm not too sure what you guys think about it. Let me know if you're trying to build it out a different way. Let me know if you're trying to do a completely different build, because there's going to be a whole heap of them that might be a lot better than what they were. One of my other favorites, which was Infinimist, is being nerfed quite heavily with corpse explosions and things going down, which kind of sucks. But my other favorite, Bone Spear, doesn't look like it's been touched too much. So Bone Spear could still be a very viable build. And I think that may be my second build after this Fireball Sorc. But playing Fireball Sorc in Season 2, you guys have seen the videos. I'll put a link down in the description so you can go back to that video if you want to have a look at how it worked. I think we might be onto something. I think that the Fireball Sorc might actually be a very, very strong build with Meteor and the Meteor enchantment being put together all on the one build. I think we could be onto something game breaking here. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching the video. Like, subscribe, and do all the other fancy stuff so that YouTube picks us up and you get to see more of our videos. If you like the way we're doing these, please let me know. If you don't like the way we're doing these, please let me know. I'm happy to take feedback, happy to take comments. Do you like seeing more theory craft things like this, where we talk more in depth about an entire thing that's going on? Or do you like to see more gameplay and me just running through this quickly and then showing you how a build works and a bit of gameplay on how it works? We're happy to take your suggestions. Thank you very much for watching and supporting the channel. Peace out from DPS HQ. We'll see you next time.